Somebody has been looking forward to today. What are you presenting
Very
them
good.
with?
So if you are a government and you say, oh, we are putting this policy together in the next 10 years, 20 years, we want to see Ghanaians like this. A certain government also came 20 years ago and wanted to see Ghanaians like this today. Today, somebody's future.
We're living in somebody's future.
And so you should consider that and say, so that person, what is his future now? And don't say, I'm looking at the future, without taking care of the present. There's no future if there's no present. And so those of us who are parents, who are workers, commuting up and down, fuel is every time the price is moving up and down, they should also consider us and make us a bit happy, because government is a continuum. You don't have to come and build the whole Ghana today. Building the people in terms of making them feel comfortable is also part of government business.
Absolutely. Looking for the solutions. For me, I don't want to hear too many long stories tomorrow. Solutions only.
We can't tighten our belts for 4 years, 8 years, 4 years, 8 years. And then, as I always say, the 4 circles will be enjoying. The political circle, media circles, business circle, and the religious circle. These are circles that if you find yourself in, by and large, you'll be a bit comfortable.
You'll be insulated from some of the hardship.
But those who are outside these circles.
Well, which circle are you in?
Oh, I mean the media circle. Media, because you're a media person, maybe you're out there, you can get 1 or 2 favors just because you're a media person.
Yes.
But if somebody is not in any of these circles, and it's a fact, if somebody is a politician, is in the political circle, he may get some favors, some courtesies. That may not be monetary or anything, but to
cushion the impact of what's going on.
And if you're a religious person at the top there, everybody sees you, you get some courtesies. If you're a businessman, even if your business is not doing well, just the fact that you have that name. But if you're not in any of these,
if you're an average Joe.
Yes, the people they call the ordinary Ghanaians. I'm trying just to define the ordinary Ghanaian.
Sure.
Because you sitting here, you are a big woman, so the name.
I identify as average Joe. But I understand what you're saying, because of the job, you get some perks.
The ordinary Ghanaian. I'm trying to just define that ordinary Ghanaian, and I've tried to draw these circles. And if you're outside it, it's tough. So let's see how some of these people can survive. In respect of the budget that's going to be read tomorrow.
Sure. And we'll be picking your views as well as we progress on the show. Do engage with us on our socials. We'll go on a very quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll play the views of what we're calling the average Joe, you and I, on the streets ahead of tomorrow. What is it that we're looking out for? What do we want to hear or not hear from the finance minister? I, for one, I talk about solutions. I would like to hear some solutions being preferred. We understand COVID-19, Russia-Ukraine war. What else is accounting for the woes that we are going through at the moment? Stick with us. This is still 3FM Sunrise on 3FM 92.7.
A gem-free toilet seat anytime, anywhere. Let me introduce
Rise.
Sometimes we the youth, we really suffer a lot. There are no jobs in the country. Everything is in shambles, you understand? So I just feel they should talk more about the employment and everything in the country. That would be something I would be really expecting to hear from the finance minister.
Right now, we are into a hardship. Let me say something like that. We're into an economic hardship. So to me, I would say it should bring a nice budget which will help the country out for this kind of economic hardship we are into. So to me, that's what I would say.
So can you pinpoint some of the hardships you are experiencing as
Hey, wow, hardship right now. I'm into a construction work, and due to transportation, you can see me, I'm walking on the street, which I'm supposed to use a car. But because of transportation, I have to walk from Accra there to Spintex. Wow. Yeah. So that's one hardship. And many more. I can't even say them because you should understand. Yeah. So our transportation and food and water bill, light bills, then they are all into this kind of hardship.
The prices of goods these days, they are serious. And then we wish the government can do something about it for us. Looking at commodities like foods and clothing, it's serious. Me, for instance, I really like kosia and moko, and then you can buy egg for 5 cedis. It's outrageous.
As for me, for that mindset, I don't want to hear his name self, because in Ghana, the way Ghana is going, the way our economy is going, Master, for the youth, you are suffering too much, so I don't want to hear that man name self.
If you say that man, who specifically are you referring to?
The finance minister of Kenneth Ofori-Atta. No work. So always budget, and that's kind of thing. You don't want it, so I don't want to talk much.
Reading of the 2024 budget and fiscal policy of the government of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. That will be the last stroke of his 2 4-year term. That's 8 years, right? And one of the gentlemen says he doesn't even want to hear the name of the finance minister. Don't angry me. Don't begin to angry me. And then there was another who said, look, I can't afford Kosiani Meko. I like it. That's boiled egg with pepper. Was it the BBC that says there's some tomato sauce or something like that? Jama Grobin or Moody. What is tomato sauce? The thing is pepper with onions and tomatoes. That is a shishe.
It's a sort of a sauce.
Yeah,
it's a peppery sauce.
Please, it's not. She thought it's not sauce. We beg you. Don't come and spoil that thing for us before some small time.
Be calming down.
Yes.
You are sounding like the last gentleman that we spoke to on the
That's
street.
what you
He doesn't
people-
even want to hear.
That's what you people have done to your Kegari Nice Gobe. What is that? You allow us to brief. Leave it for us. Small time come get out of what?
Even So Kings is what is it? Cassava
dough
flakes.
Cassava dough flakes.
Pudding.
With nuts.
With
and,
nuts, thank you.
Milk
Exactly.
and some topping and Gary basically. Gary Nesitre. But that's the reality of the people out there. I mean, everybody else is wondering what exactly the finance minister will be putting out there tomorrow. One of the taxes I want to see go is the tax on sanitary pads. I want to see it go. I want to see it vanish. Vroom. I wouldn't appreciate it if VAT is increased. I'm not sure I will. Yes. So, and I'm suspecting that, yes, we'll take off the sanitary pad tax and then increase the value for rate for VAT.
That's what a lot of us are saying. A lot of us women analyzing this situation, even beyond taking off this luxury tax. What about expanding the scope of production on our shores? Because we import a lot of I'd say 90% almost of the menstrual hygiene products that come into Ghana, and even those that are looking to produce it here on our shores, they'll tell you that the taxes on some of the inputs makes it difficult for them to set up here and produce locally. So across the board, the taxes. If government wants us to move away from taxation to production, they should put their money where their mouth is so that we can have some reprieve and also produce. The heavy tax burden is what is stopping production from flourishing. I want to hear something about taxation tomorrow.
Okay. Speaking of taxation, we have two tax giants in studio. Julius Jima is an economic policy analyst, joins us in studio. And then Dr. Alex Ampabin is a tax policy analyst who joins us on phone line. Doc, good morning. Thank you very much. Julius, good morning in studio. Thank you. How are you, gentlemen?
Good morning, Johnny.
Great.
So much. We are so busy because there's a budget hearing tomorrow.
I know, right?
And there's so much information across board. So I believe we'll just do some justice within the shortest possible time.
Let's share what we can.
Yeah.
Doc, how are you?
Very well, my brother. Thank you.
Great. What are your expectations for tomorrow? Mr. Ken Oforiatta will read the budget. We've had the going concerns, domestic debt exchange program, IMF here. Cost of living there, workers are demanding for some more increment. What do you expect?
Okay, thank you very much. This one, my expectation is that this budget should be a budget that to take to its own hands.
Doc, your line is not too clear. You may have to reposition yourself if you can. No. Jen, please fetch Doc back on the line for us. Julius, let me come to you. What are your expectations?
All right,
initial thoughts.
Yes. So my expectations are very simple. We are just going to measure performance. What 2023 budget the finance minister told the people of Ghana, and then what he has achieved. My expectations will be that, as you were talking about, COVID-19 levy is one of the taxes that we are hoping for.
Yes.
We were discussing a media review, it didn't come. So for 2024 budget, it should go. I mean, at least it will ease, the hardship in the system. Simple reason is that government has, undertaken a lot of policies. We've gone to the IMF. We are talking about budget deficit. So how do you make in for the money? And as a result, IMF has given you some payment. In the beginning of the year, we introduced 3 new revenue bills. Now they are act. And then, there's
excise,
gaming tax. Government review the upper limit of there's something called the income tax are the benefits in kind. Those who are receiving fuel or you are being given a car and a driver, the limit with which you are free, government increase it up. And then again, we talked about this growth and sustainability levy. So these are tax revenues or tax streams that have already, government have introduced them. I just want to see that the minister will report on so far how much money has been realized. And as a result, we are not anticipating a new tax in 2024.
Are you sure?
Yes.
The finance minister will not?
Yes, I'm just anticipating, and that's because...
But where from this anticipation?
The anticipation is just with the budget and with what is happening in the economy. These are practical issues.
Right.
Why do you want to bring in new taxes? As a result of your budget deficit. Now, the monies that you are not getting, as a result, you go and borrow. As a result, you've already brought in some taxes in 2023. Come and tell us the performance of those taxes. And then why did we go to the IMF? It's still a same budget deficit issue.
Right.
So if you are getting all these contributions coming in and then you are meeting up your expenditure and then you've no focus on what? Reversing or reducing your expenditure, then what is the essence of what bringing in taxes? What you have to do rather is focus on tax compliance so that you widen the bracket. Widen the bracket simply means that you have to bring in more product into the tax bracket and bring in more individuals and businesses so that government can tax them. Then the overburden of existing taxpayers that we are already contributing as a result of we belong to the formal sector will be a thing of the past. When we do that, we'll begin to see that our tax revenues will go up. So the usual way of what? Overburden existing tax payers, you don't see the sharp increase in your revenue. Rather, people find ways and means to do what? Avoid it. And it's as simple as that. Look at what happened to e-levy. Now, there were so many means that you can avoid. As a result, e-levy is not performing. So as we speak, these are the things that we want the finance minister to tell us, God willing, tomorrow, especially performance on e-levy and performance of COVID-19, so that it will give us an indication whether or not some of these taxes will go, and then we'll focus on our tax compliance and beef up what GRA is doing. When these things are done, you get your revenue from the system.
See, let me welcome Dr. Alex Ampabine again. Doc, thank you very much for your time. You're a tax policy analyst. I was asking what your initial thoughts are. What are your expectations of the finance minister tomorrow?
Yeah, thank you. And I hope the line
is better now.
Okay. Yes. I mean, what I was saying is that broadly, I want this budget to put Ghana back into its own hands. Of course, we are with the IMF, and therefore things are not so clear-cut. Economy is partly dictated to by the program of the IMF. But there's still an element of control we can exert as people in Ghana. And I expect authorities to, one, have a budget with revenue and expense programs that is putting Ghana back on track and crucially into our own hands. The IMF, as you know, is just a temporary measure. But then post-IMF, how is our revenue performance going to be like? No amount of money from IMF or the World Bank will put Ghana back on track until we generate enough revenue and use that generated revenue judiciously. I do not expect any new taxes because the economy as we are in is choked. Where exactly are the opportunities for any new tax? And I like what the gentleman in the studio was suggesting, that the emphasis should be more about compliance. Absolutely. Because of the low tax compliance, and that is why we tend to have so many multiple layers of indirect taxes. The less people comply to the direct taxes, the more indirect taxes we have. And then the more the very few who are caught up in the formal sector will be forced to pay. But if you're able to put in mechanisms to broaden the tax net, you have it. What matters now is about the net. How do we widen the net to make sure that those who have to be captured by the net are already captured and they are paying? So I would like to see a more aggressive, high net worth taxation strategy. I would say, in spite of the difficulty we are going through, the few rich in the system are getting richer. We see in social media how people are displaying their wealth. We've seen the number of people who are now moving into real estate. It tells you that there are an element of high net worth individuals in the system. some of whom probably are rather moving into informality in order to conceal. So how is government going to go about taxing the rich in the system who are moving into property? That comes to the issue of property taxation.
Right.
We have been talking about property tax for a very long time, and government introduced a unified common platform so that GRA kind of take a lead role in property taxation. But personally, I disagree with that because already the taxes under GRA's control are a challenge for them. The local assemblies rely so much on this to raise their revenue. Not long ago, I had a meeting with some budget officials within the Accra metropolis. That was about 2-3 weeks ago. And the point was that they were generating about 4 million Ghana cedis in property tax also. But since the introduction of the digital unified common platform, they are getting less than 500,000.
I see.
Simply because the responsibility has been taken away from the assembly. And we've said it over and over right from the onset that the GRA does not have the capacity to do it. What it's required is that GRA can build the system, support the valuation of the properties, but then leave the collection to the assemblies. The assemblies know the people, they know the owners, and they are able to capture and deploy a team as and when to make sure enforcement is right. So we need a property tax. I would like to see more on how property tax enforcement is going to be implemented because there's a huge revenue potential there. If there's any place Ghana stands to gain revenue, it's from property tax.
I see.
But responsibility should be taken away from the GRA and back to the assembly with a minimal support from the GRA.
Okay.
We also have e-commerce tax. We've made lots of noise about this. The GRA started implementing piloting, I think, over a year ago. So far, no update on how far we are performing. But this is not something GRA alone can do. They need to link up with the National Communication Authority. They control our digital space, and they'll be able to track who is doing where, what, and when, and how.
I hear you, Doc. Hold your horses there. Let me invite into the conversation Professor Lord Mensah. He's with the University of Ghana Business School. He's an economist. Prof, thank you very much for your time. Good morning.
Good morning, sir, and good morning to our listeners.
Great. Prof, the finance minister is set to appear in Parliament. You have, in the past, asked for government to take a look at issues like the e-levy. You have made recommendations and suggestions to government, but they have not listened to it. Do you get a sense that going forward tomorrow, the finance minister, the economic management team would at least listen to you so that they don't hit the snag again?
Well, good morning to our listeners once again and those in the studio. Clearly, yes, this time round, the finance minister has no choice than to hit to what we have been propagating over the past years, cutting down expenditure, find innovative ways of raising revenue, and building up into fiscal discipline. Clearly, we are with the IMF. And if you look at it, presented to the IMF, everything amounts to, fiscal discipline. And so, looking at the situation on the ground and how we need the IMF, inflows, there's no way the finance minister will do otherwise. Any attempt to present a different budget than what is expected of the IMF program and further delay, the chances that we are expecting from the program. So it's a budget that we should expect. Some of the details. For instance, I've heard, the businesses, calling for, no introduction of taxes.
That's
and
right.
All those.
That's right.
If you look at the document that was presented to the IMF, the plan of increasing our revenue to GDP from 13% all the way to 18%. And looking at the increment, the finance minister planned to, 2024 increase the percentage by, 1.88. I mean, if you look at the medium-term revenue plan, you can go to the website of the Ministry of Finance. It's there clearly stated. And then 2020, looking at 1.9%. Subsequently, lower the increment. So you could see the desperation of getting the IMF program. We front-loaded, some of the, revenue enhanced, that we intend to put out there. And so the finance minister this time is going to go by the things we have been proposing over the past year. He has no choice than to do that. And I'm expecting a bad. This is for the first time that we should, expect this from the finance minister, that he should give us contingency, because there's a risk that the country, the sovereign risk that the country, is exposed to, is so high. Because if you look at, the Foucault indicated those loans that we're using to shore up our, foreign buffers. And at the same time, if you look at the influence of the IMF, program, I would say the first one that we got was more or less a kind of a relaxed condition that the IMF, had, for us. That is why we got the first tranche. But the second tranche, they're going to be strict, and that is why we even missed, the November 1st deadline.
Right.
And that will boil down to the negotiations we have with our external, creditors. So the finance minister should be able to give us continuity. Budget, because that's looking into the future. A situation where we don't get this inflow, how are we going to survive?
Right.
And that is very, very important. For businesses to stand with it. Other than that, he may present some nice budget into those lines align with the IMF program without considering the possible exposures that we are likely.
I see. Great.
And most of the time, these are the things that derail, some of the targets in the budget. And I can tell you that over the past years, we've been deviating from our macroeconomic targets, so high to the extent that it calls into question the finance minister's economic progress in economic and finance progress in forecasting into the future. Because if you are to ask me in terms of performance, how we should judge the finance minister, I look at what he targeted to do, and then look at the deviations from that target. That is the only numerical way of.
I see. That's the thinking of Mr. Jima in studio now, and I go to Mr. Jima now. So, do you see the people at the center of all what we're doing? Because the finance minister insists that we have turned the corner. Economists like yourself, Dr. Mpabini, Professor Mensah, Peter Korte, Bokpin, Menchi Gachi, have all said that, look, we have not turned the corner. We are now even trying to get onto the road. Now, trying to get onto the road to turn the corner means that the people must be at the center. Because whether it is taxes, tax reduction, increments of the rate, whatever it is, all the policies, it needs the people. Do you get a sense that the finance minister sees the people at the center?
Well, Johnny, he does, but it has not really reflected the way Ghanaians are looking for.
What are we looking for?
Yeah, because if you are managing your public debt, currently we are around about 800 plus, just close to our GDP, a nominal GDP value of about 802 billion Ghana cedis. Your target is to halve it. So if you've not achieved that, then it means that the monies that you are supposed to use to focus on doing certain things in the economy that the people will benefit is going to take some time. Again, look at where inflation went to. We started the year with 54.1%. It's now dropping to 38. It's coming down, but still there is what prices of goods and services are still high.
Right.
Not what we used to know from the 7% just in 2021. So there's a lot of work that has to go on in the economy, and the minister can achieve that and bring in people, as in Ghanaians, to benefit. Then he has to go back to the targets that he set for himself in 2023 budget. He talked about streamlining, expenditure, boosting local production, because that is what we have always been advocating for. Because if you look at certain commodities that we consume, let's take rice, let's take sugar. Let's
add oil.
Yes, oil. These things, we are importing them.
And chicken.
That's right. So if you go to some of our supermarkets and the malls that we have, all the product there, about 80 to 90% are foreign. What are we doing? That we need a policy to address that. That will solve the difficulties and the challenges that we are facing in the economy. And when that is achieved, then we can see that, yes, the people...
Was that why the cancellation of the benchmark values on some 43 items was instituted? And then producers and AGI and Guta, they were all, finance minister
I have an issue with the war between, the friendly war between AGI and Guta. When the policy favors AGI, hallelujah. When it does not favor them, it's a big deal. When it favors Guta, it's also hallelujah for them. The benchmark policy, I mean, is the same institutions that will go and negotiate with minister, with vice president, with the president. That look, people are bringing in the containers and they can't pay the duty. So why don't you drop the values down so that we clear? So in the course of clearing, it means that you get more people clearing their containers, then you get your revenue. Instead of increasing the rate and people bringing it, they can't clear it. Now, the rates are down, but we are battling with city depreciation. So still, the value is not the same. So now what we have to do is two key indicators that the minister must address, and he has, started some work on it. Right. That is why we are doing this DD, PIMF is in. Now we are still talking to our external debtors so that they can give us the assurance that we can get a second payment. Because December 2 is around the corner, and imports will definitely go up. And when that happens, your city will now be fighting with the dollar again, and will still have that adverse effect in the economy. So there's a lot of work that the minister must do. Like I said, he should just address some of these key challenges. I haven't seen so much with the local production, because once you do that, you are bringing in Ghanaian entrepreneurs to solve our problems for us. We have seen some effort with Jospon going into rice plantation, and that is good news. But the point is that as Ghanaians, we have had some taste and preference for foreign goods and services as a result. Even when you see the local rice in the market, you won't buy it. Because we have seen the foreign ones, the Thai, the Lily, and the rest like that, and the taste, we like them. So,
Jospon is there, Minta Kando is there.
Right.
Apia Kubi is there, Mutala Muhammad. I can mention a lot of members of parliament who are into our
These are the things we want to see.
But there's no single local policy, government policy that supports them, those who want to go into farming.
So that is what we want the minister to tell us in the 2024, because in the 2023 he captured this as an objective. So how have you done and how have you performed? What have you achieved? When it comes to the figures, minister budgeted for 143 billion cedis with revenue, and then some 204. It was reversed down to 190. We have seen a decrease in the expenditure, meaning that the expenditure is dropping for obvious reasons, because minister is addressing interest payment, certain principals and then interest that we are supposed to pay has been taken ahead for some time. Now, the issue here is that your revenue has not increased. So still, you might be battling with certain things. You are okay, you have a safe haven because IMF is giving you the money. But this is the time that we have to look within and do that domestic revenue mobilization that we've all been talking about. And that should not come as a result of increasing taxes on existing taxpayers.
But how else do we do it? I mean, you've spoken about widening the tax net. And I'll go to Dr. Mpambe shortly after this. You've spoken about widening the tax net. And it's become like a cliche.
Yes.
Every now and then they say, widen the tax net, widen the tax net. I remember that when we set up NAPCO, we had Revenue Ghana.
Yes.
And their jobs was to go to construction sites, look at the plumbers and carpenters and masons and dressmakers and seamstresses, etc., and try and rope all of them in. Obviously, that failed, because if you look at how much we spent for NAPCO and what we got in return for tax mobilization from that corner, we failed. How else should we go about it?
Yeah, so I remember one of the key characteristics of a good tax system is that it should be simple, convenient in collecting. So once you introduce a policy and then you do cost-benefit analysis, and your cost in even collecting the revenue is more than the benefit you are going to get, it means that, hey, you have to come back to the drawing table. It's very simple, Johnny. There are a lot of products, there are a lot of businesses, there are individuals are also in the system. So focus on getting people into employment. As a result, you collect your income tax from there. Now go to businesses. What do? They pay corporate taxes. And what can you do to help them? Yes, government has done some, support with this Tax Exemptions Act. That now it is bringing in certain, businesses into the tax bracket by paying. Hitherto they were enjoying some holidays and tax concessions. So it's just very simple. Bring in the policies. If you meet with AGI, you meet with the Guta. What are the things, the commodities, AGI, what kind of product are they producing to support local demand?
Right.
Then you can go down and you support them. And it's very simple.
Okay.
Target the product. We know them, like we've just mentioned them. Okay, all these products, it is Ghanaians that are bringing it into the market. What do we do? How do we engage them so that the direction will not be into just importation, but we'll do import substitution?
Okay.
The minister said it's costing 10 billion annually. What are we doing about those things?
Okay. Dr. Mpabene, let's get in there. Now, the question is about jobs, because if you don't have a job, you cannot pay the taxes. And let's talk about job creation. Do you also get a sense that a lot more jobs are going to be created because the unemployment gap keeps widening, despite the fact that the government says we have factories that are up and running, we have schemes that are giving people jobs, but there are a lot more unemployed people, particularly youth. What should we do? Dr. Mpambine, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Great. So go ahead, please.
So you see, and linking this up to our economic challenges you spoke to earlier, the best way to create jobs now in Ghana is to look at some of the key items remain important. What we need is an import substitution mechanism that will support local industries while providing local jobs to our people. Last year, I think we spent about over 700 million importing rice in Ghana. Local consumption, I think, is around 1.4 million metric tons, and we are domestically less than 45 or so percent. Now, we have a number of youths who are or were with NAPCO, and there are a number of them who are actually roaming in the streets doing nothing.
Right.
How do we make this a policy that, for example, school feeding, it becomes compulsory that school feeding has to be Ghana-made rice or Ghana-made yam or Ghana-made soda? What you are doing is that it's a kind of a local protectionism, but in a way, you are increasing the appetite for the youth and others to venture into agriculture because they know once they finish there's a ready-made market here.
Not to cut you. I sat in front of the president in 2019, 20th of December 2019. That was the last time he engaged the press. And then he said that going forward, all refreshments that are funded with state resources, including what you just mentioned, should be with local rice. I can tell you on authority that since that time and up until now, the president has had at least 4 banquets, all right? And they didn't use local rice.
Great.
So how do the people follow suit when the leader himself makes a point, gives direction, and takes a left turn?
Exactly. And you see, Ghana economy will bounce back, not the words that we speak out, but the actions we take. The economy will not bounce back to pre-COVID pandemic when things were, I would say, better because of beautiful speeches or promises. But it will be based on the exact, calculated, deliberate action and policies of government. Why should we import rice from Thailand to feed our kids in Sefrioso? How? Or to feed our kids in Cape Coast or Takoradi? So we need to make this at least from the institutional level, the secretariat of the school feeding. What can they do to make sure that going forward, all contracts, food items has to be domestic? That one is there. Again, we imported over 500 million. We spent over 500 million importing chicken to consume locally. Chicken is an area, if again we make it attractive, most of the youth will go in there, and it will reduce unemployment heavily because in 3 months, the chicken are ready to be sold.
That's correct.
So somebody don't have to wait for years before they start realizing the revenues or seeing the fruit of their labor. The point is creation of jobs. We don't have the industry. So we consume so much on the agri sector. We started planning for food and jobs, which was meant to revive the economy because part of it was to export, which didn't happen. But can we come back to the drawing board and rewrite the wrongs? The good news is that, and my hope is going to be I think it's one of the conditions of the IMF.
Right.
I don't have the document handy, so I can't quote it. That government is being urged to take deliberate steps to support local businesses and halt the importation of rice and poultry. So this one being one of the key issues that the IMF will be looking at. I think this is an opportunity now for government flagship programs looking at supporting youth, especially the Youth Start program. I think the Youth Start program should first of all start looking at supporting youth in agriculture. This will, one, support job creation, but crucially also reduce the currency debt challenges we've been having. Remember, those millions of dollars we are talking about, people have to physically exchange the cedi to the dollar.
That's correct.
So the more we are importing the rice and the chicken and the moadia and all those things we have been consuming, the more we are putting pressure on the dollar, and the more we are creating unemployment in the system.
I see.
So in this budget, I would like to see steps that are immediate. It's not something like I'm going to talk about look at the next 5 years or so. What can we do immediately? What's looking at the long term? Can we use that?
Okay. So immediate, and then we can start looking at long term. That's brilliant there. Professor Mensah, coming for me. So we have spoken about industrialization. We agree that it is a way to go. Can we also look at technology, tourism, for example, those that can create jobs that the youth might be interested in? Is that possible, Prof?
Yeah, that's possible. But let me come in with this revenue Ghana policy that was rolled out, on NAPO.
Right.
It was a very good policy, but we got it wrong in its implementation. Now we have informal businesses that nobody knows what is sitting on their balance sheet, and to what extent can you tax them on their profit.
Right.
And this informal sector have been calling for tax cuts. They've been calling for adjustment in tariffs and the ports and all this. But nobody knows, the percentage of profit they make. Who knows? It could be that they are making 100% profit. And that has been consistently been like that compared to generations upon generations. And as a result of that, once any, revenue enhanced policy comes in and it's going to, reduce that kind of stream of profit that they've been enjoying, it turn out like it. So from where I think that policy was fully implemented, government can launch, kind of an accounting student, graduates who are finishing, their program and they are accounting oriented. Send them to this informal, businesses. Give them targets. And the target you are giving them is that. Fine, you're going to pay them based on national service, based on NAPO. Get about 3,000 of them. And this is a project. Get them and then go out there. At least when they are coming or on daily basis, they should be able to send you information on, what is sitting on the kind of business we are helping them to do their accounting, on their balance. And then possibly government will gather this data. And that data is supposed to inform whether these businesses, you can go to some certain threshold to tax them or not. As we speak now, it's like robbing the informal sector, do this, do that. But we don't know what exactly is going on down there in this underground economy. So from where I sit, I think, we can do better when it comes to the implementation. Now you can come back to your question.
Great. So having spoken to that, and that's a very good intervention, I'm asking, can we also focus on technology and tourism, for example, because if you look at the tourism sector, the wide numbers that it employs, you look at technology and the wide numbers and how the young are interested in it. Can we also start focusing there and investing some more so we can create some more jobs? Is it possible?
Yeah, the gig industry is what is driving most economies now, and I think it's about time we put our attention there and put in some resources. But let me chip in this. You see, the problem with this country is the essentials. We're struggling to get essentials right. If I say essentials, the food we eat and all this. If you look at the neighboring African countries, recently Nigeria was able to produce rice to a level where, they had to stop importing rice. And I think, that's just my understanding, that was able to tame down their inflation, looking at the COVID shocks, looking at the Ukraine shocks and all this. They are recording around 13%, 15% thereabout inflation. Growth livelihood, the same. So for me, where I sit, if you are coming to read budget, I want you to concentrate on the essential. Look at our inflation drivers. It's basically the essentials that is driving inflation. If you are producing rice, producing corn, which is being eaten by every single household, when a child is born, within 6 months, that child will start consuming something related to, corn or something related to rice. So effectively, we have to get essentials right. But I can tell you, fine, our tourism industry, of course, this essentials will also feed into the tourism industry because, if people come for tourists, you may have to feed them. If it's hotel, you have to feed them. And so, in one way or the other, that is also going to create, jobs as you are saying. So for me, we may have to get essentials right. That is why I was so happy with, this planting for food and, jobs that have scaled abysmally over the years. And if you look into the budget consistently, and let me tell you one thing, all the flagship programs, right, that, government rolled out over the years, those flagship programs were attracting their budget. If I say they are attracting their budget as expected, what I mean is that they more or less, you see, the budget goes through different phases. We have what minister is reading to the public, that is what has been budgeted for. And then there's a point where it goes to appropriation, which Parliament has to approve what has been budgeted for. And then it goes to release, and then actual. The actual is that amount that goes into the policy itself. Now, most, policy side, you get differentials as it goes through this process. But for the flagship program, I can tell you that consistently, all the flagship programs have set the exact amount that are supposed to be used to implement the project. So, the funding for food and jobs, we talk about 6 million Ghana cedis over the years on the average, has drained the country a lot. But we're not getting anything out of it. So, for me, from where I sit, it has to do with implementation issues. And we don't have to open up and say, okay, fine, it's agriculture. We want to tap into every aspect of agriculture. No. Let's look at the staples that the people consume and have a target and say that by the end of this policy, we should be able to reduce, rice importation by 80%. We should be able to reduce maize importation by, 70%. And so if you're a minister, you are not producing, you are not able to deliver up to that. You are fired.
Okay. Mr. Jima, now the elephant in the room, domestic debt exchange program. We missed the 1st November deadline, which puts us even in a tighter position. And the reason is that people say, look, I can't lose almost 40% or around 40% of my own money just to make you look good so you can satisfy certain prerequisites for money to come in. When I'm not seeing you use the money judiciously, and then you tell me we're in this together, but I don't see you trying to, for example, sacrifice as much. And the case in point is where the government says, I have taken off 30% of my salary, all right, to support the economy. But nobody knows where the money is going. Trust issues. And Professor Jampo said that the government is going through credibility issues. What do you say? Domestic debt exchange program, credibility, and the economy trying to bounce back. What do you say?
Thank you so much, Johnny. I think that it's all about reporting. Government introduced this 30% cut in basic salaries of government public sector workers. I believe that I would have that data. I know because we've monitored it that currently the deductions are being done, but where it is going, it goes to the central consolidated fund. Ghanaians would want to have that data. So far, when that policy was introduced, how much money has been realized? Then what has those monies been used for? It's very simple. Because when it comes to finances and when it comes to the financial market, when it comes to all these arrangements on finance, it's all about credibility. It's all about your integrity. So sometimes we do advocate that we don't want bad news because anything bad negatively will impact on your market.
That's right.
So yes, a lot of commitments Ghanaians have. When I get the opportunity, I always thank them. Ghana Association of Bankers, Ghana Insurance Association, Ghana Security Industry. These guys, without them, government will not have gotten the vehicle to complete the DDEP. That it became a panacea for the IMF to release the first track of payment to support our economy. So it is high time now we call for so much reports from government. Tell us. It's tell position. Just tell Ghanaians, report to them. Give them.
What do you think is holding back this telling?
I don't know whether it's lack of information or the information is not being prepared or they are scared. Perhaps maybe opposition will pick the information and then use it for another thing else. Look at the way our politics is also happening in our country. But the issue here is that you are government in power. You owe that duty to your people. You owe that responsibility. Report to us. Once you report to us and we know the data and we know that, this is clearly what it is, then we can have that confidence. Having that confidence gives you your integrity back. At the end of the day, you are completing a cycle of what? Making sure that you reduce your interest payment. Johnny, if you look at our budget, as we've always been, Minister will come and read to us, it's not only about the words and then the figures. It's about the substance in it. As we speak, 3 budget expenditure items will take off your revenue. All your revenues will be eaten up by these 3 budget items, which is interest payment, grants that you give to your ministries, municipals, and district assemblies, and then you are off.
That's not good.
Yes, that's not good. And that is time and time again. That is how our budget has been. So what money do you get to do your capital expenditure? What money do you do to consumption of goods and services? Government do this goods and services. They give contract to suppliers to supply it for, catering services and all that. So as we speak, going forward into 2024 elections, we have a lot of questions to really scrutinize campaign manifestos because we do not have that fiscal space. Now we are looking at creating them. How do we do fiscal consolidation, structural adjustment, making sure that your public sector are really working efficiently? Because you pump money into the private sector, you don't get the benefit back. Look at the services that we enjoy in this country. Is that the services that we want to know? But time and time again, we look at our budget and there's money allocated for all these things. So there's a whole lot of things that goes on in our budgets and our budgeting system that we have to pay proper attention. It's not just about 2-3 hour presentation at Parliament and that's it. No, we have to look at the details in it so that we know that, look, as a country going forward, this is where we are. This is our financial position. And that is why we will see some form of borrowing in, the relevant years.
But can we continue to borrow? And at what rate, especially when the people say, look, you are pressing us too much for everything. You can borrow. We don't see how well you're using the money. Then you come to us and say, we owe, let's pay. We owe, let's pay. I mean, can we stop that cycle already?
We have to. Like Dr. Mpabe said, we have to have that deliberate effort. It's a strategy, it's a conscious effort. We have to, this is what we are doing for the next 5-10 years. If it is about import, let us close our borders for the next 10 years and build the industries within. China did it. I mean, growing up, we didn't know Dubai, we didn't know China. There were countries that we were not hearing from them, but today look at where they are. So if we don't have that deliberate efforts as a country, our leaders don't take into consideration the way forward, then we'll be coming back and discussing and be talking about the problems, leaving the solutions. But I am interested in the solutions because that is where it can catapult our economy to where we want it to be and get the benefit and reap your taxes within. What government looking for is money, and money you get it through your taxes.
See, Dr. Mpabe, the strength of our currency is what's on my mind now, because if you look at inflation, and the other time, Professor Benson and Professor Bobi explained to me that, look, we talk about inflation. It means that when the money gets to you, the figures that we are talking, let's say you have 100 cedis, and if its inflation starts at 40%, it means that 40% of your money is already gone before it even gets to you. Now, that's not good for the Ghanaian who is already going through it, as the Gen Zs will say on the streets and on social media. How do we bring down the inflation so that the Ghanaians can breathe? They can confidently walk to the bank to say that, look, I want to take a loan and start a business because I have this business idea. 3-4 people who have gone to the University of Ghana Business School can say, we have mooted this idea. We want to go to the bank to get soft credit or whatever credit to start a business, employ others as well. How do we bring the figures down? Because they are way too up.
Absolutely. And sometimes, personally, I wonder how people in Ghana who borrow to do business are able to repay. And it wasn't surprising when in 2018, during the banking sector reform, we had so much on non-performing loans. Because if you have a policy rate that is over 30%, banks probably are giving out around 35-40%. What exactly are you going to use the money for to be able to generate enough profit and come back and pay that astronomical interest rate? So the issue of dealing with the inflation, it comes with a number of factors. And one of them, as I said, the overdependence on foreign goods is actually one of our major headaches when it comes to inflation. You see, as the cedi starts underperforming against the dollar, depreciation setting in, you don't expect the prices of goods to remain the same. Because I am buying the rice, maybe a kilo of rice from Thailand for $2. I'll come back home and sell it for maybe 30 Ghana cedis, and I'll get about 5 or 4 Ghana cedis on it. If I go back and the rate has gone up, so when I come back, I can no longer sell it, or I will need more cedis to be able to go back and purchase the same amount of goods. When I come back, don't expect me to sell it the same 30 cedis. So changing the numbers, one, in terms of business support, is important. But changing the numbers will start from, again, the deliberate policy. And I think here me and Mr. Jima are hitting on the same nail or the same tone. What is not helping us is the political cycle that we have in Ghana. In all this long talk we are having, the icing on top of this cake is our political cycle. Because somebody said opposition is not. So when they are in opposition, they are looking for negative news to hammer on. When they are in government, they are also looking at ways to cover negative news to look good. And the fact that people are yearning so hard for political power means that having a long-term policy that will put the economic back on track is really not a priority. As we are here with the IMF now, the Ghana's posture should be about the next 10, 15 years. Policy should be geared towards that long period for which you can have immediate ones. But overturning economic misfortune is not something that happens overnight. But some of those policies, if, for example, you want to go into industrialization proper, like Mr. Jima was talking about China and Dubai,
right?
These are things that will not happen in the next general election or before the next general election. So the average politician in Ghana is not interested in it. He's rather interested in how do we make the figures look good so that the electorate will see that we are doing well and give us another 4 years. The one in opposition is also saying, how do we make them look as bad so that we get into power? So it will come from one, we need a deliberate policy that import substitution, for me now, should be government key focus. That the basic things we can import here. For example, 21-22 fiscal year, we imported over $8 million worth of chewing gum to come and chew in Ghana. Abba. You look at some of the items we import, and it's very painful. And it's something that you can't blame any government because it's been happening for years.
I see.
So how do we sit up and say, we want to create an import substitution mechanism where going forward certain items that can be manufactured locally. By doing that, one, we are giving our local currency strength. By doing that, we are reducing depreciation. By doing that, you are creating enough avenues for Ghana to even earn something externally, which again is going to strengthen our currency performance. But crucially, I think all this long talk also has to do with our revenue performance. You see, we can do all the talking. You're talking about now going back to borrow again. Nobody will borrow Ghana again. As it stands, the doors are shut because we don't have that credit worthiness which investors will be interested in investing in Ghana. Remember, we go to where we are because not that something significant actually changed. But what changed was the investor confidence that went down.
I see.
When the IMF published that Ghana is nearing the point of debt distress, when Fitch came out with their own, when Moody's downgraded us, then people started thinking, maybe government might not be able to repay my investment. Maybe my investment in Ghana doesn't worth it. So what will I do? I need to now sell off quickly and repatriate my profit. When this huge sell-off and repatriation started, that is where the whole inflation and depreciation conversation came in. And that's what changed completely the economic outlook of Ghana. So we will need a policy that will look at, I remember the great GCPP, Professor Danlati, great memory doctor, when he said domestication. At that time, we were making fun of him. But that man had a vision we didn't see. And when he was talking about grow what you eat and eat what you grow, we actually stopped calling him Danlati and started calling him domestication. But this is the time to revisit the whole domestication conversation. Take Ghana into our own hands. It's not the time to let things be as usual. And that's what I'm saying. With this budget, we want to see a bold and aggressive Ghana government trying to bring policies to revamp the economy, create jobs, immediate opportunities, and give the economy back
All right.
to the order of the economy.
Thank you. Dr. Alex Ampabin is a tax policy analyst. He joined us on the phone line. Prof, I come to you now, and in wrapping up with conversations about e-levy. And we all know what government said about e-levy, that if we get the e-levy, we won't go to IMF. If we get the e-levy, we'll pay contractors, we'll pay school fees, we'll pay this, we'll do that. E-levy was more like Akobama, some people have called it. It can cure nearly every bodily pain. But now the e-levy, we know, is not performing too well as it is. Would you want to see the back of the e-levy in the present circumstance, Prof?
I think before the introduction of the e-levy, we made, noise about it. Indicating that the country was in transition. It was a time that people are now embracing, that concept of transferring money. And so any attempt to put a levy in that regard, you'll get investors, or you'll get those on the platform transacting, withdrawing, especially when alternatives of, sending money is still available. So they should take their time. The government went ahead, aggressive targets here and there, thinking either they can give us 7 billion and over. And by so doing, we really remove that tool, our road tool.
Yes.
You ask yourself whether, it was a good decision to take or not. But let me come back to the issue. You see, bringing back e-levy, I indicated earlier, we have, committed to the IMF that we're going to increase revenue. And by the numbers which we have front-loaded 2024, 2025, as far as the increment is concerned, government will have no choice than to introduce some taxes. But then I don't think with the lessons they've learned from the introduction of the e-levy, they would like to go that route. And what I believe in is that probably there could be some indirect taxes on petroleum consumption and all this. And that is what the people of Ghana must embrace themselves with. So from where, if you look at the dynamics very well, the government cannot afford not to introduce any tax. It would be difficult. And the reason why I know very well that people are calling for reduction on some of these taxes Government has not shown that kind of credibility in terms of resource allocation, how funds of the state can get into efficient sectors for good production to put the economy on its footing. And that is why we are sent by government to hold up, revenue from the top. For instance, when you talk about import tariffs, government can say that, okay, fine, I have very good policies in place in country, and as a result of that, we will drastically reduce import tariffs and actually do, on the goods or whatever services that are being rendered get into the economy, and it creates that kind of economic, vibrancy. I come in to take, my taxes. That is not the case. A situation where government is on, falling out numbers, and when you go into an IMF, before the IMF program, government had, the option of instilling a self-discipline, financial, standard, but they couldn't do that. The government having options to control, budget deficit by either, cutting down expenditure or increasing revenue. The government has been prioritizing increasing revenue all these years. And when the revenue comes, you don't even know what the money are being used for. So, people will call that, hey, you are taking the money all right, but you are not using it well. So allow it to flow into the economy. Let the money create its own economic activity. The hands that will get into believe that, which are individuals, revenue, and business who are calling for this. Now, when you take a typical economy, you have to look at it from perspective of having about, hey, this is a few education to put out there.
Right.
When you pick up an economy, you have to look at three agents within the economy who are making up the economic, activities. We look at government, we look at the individuals, and we look at businesses. Now, over the years, this government has been in business. And this is reflected in interest rate structure. It's only government that can borrow the huge quantities of funds that are supposed to flow within the economy. And so when it happens like that, you leave out the business and you leave out, individuals. And that is why anytime we seek rescue from international partners, from IMF and all this, they insist that they give us a route for which activities of the government or activities of, the government of the day in the economy will be reduced. Okay? All right. NAPCO, for instance, shouldn't have been the order of the day. We look at NAPCO, government would have transferred that kind of job creation to the businessman by lowering interest rates. But they didn't do that. So, for political reasons, government has been doing all the business. When it happens like that, you will never have your economy growing. And government doing business is a political business. Money will end up in inefficient sectors here and there.
I see. Professor Lord Mensah, thank you very much indeed for your time. He's an economist with the University of Ghana Business School, joining us here on Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. Dr. Joseph Obeng is the president of the Ghana Union of Traders Association. He joins us on the phone line now. Doc, good morning and thank you very much indeed for your time, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Doc, in August, you are on record to have said that the mid-year budget review by the finance minister was empty because it did not touch on high cost involved in doing business, no revision of taxes, high interest rates, and high inflation issues. They have not been solved. Inflation from 53 to 43 is not acceptable. Nothing has changed. There's no new thing in the budget. You just said, Prof, that, look, he would rather have government invest the monies they put into the, shall I call it wishy-washy job creation avenues into the businesses of people, because then you people have shown that you can actually sustain businesses. Will your tone change this time around, given the space of time, and now that the finance minister is going back to parliament with the budget looking into 2024? Would he have something that is not empty? Do you see that?
Thank you very much. I think you have rephrased what I've said. That's okay. You see, when we entered agreement with the IMF, and then government wanted to increase those three obnoxious taxes that I used to call. We were supposed to engage with government, and they did not give us the opportunity. So when eventually we met with government on the media review, they promised that the media review, they are not going to touch on those things, and that on the 2024 budget, we are going to consider most of our pleas. So we have sat down with government before, I think 2 weeks before, and they have given the assurance. I hope you listen to the finance minister giving indication that they are going to look at pruning down some of the taxes.
Right.
But let me tell you the true state of doing business in Ghana today, and then you know what our demands are. And during the last quarter of last quarter of 2022, most of our capitals got depleted, over 50%. And we all know that by the effect of the depreciation. Now, because we also entered the IMF deal with the conditionalities that goes with it, the new taxes have been added up to the old ones that we're even complaining of. Cost of doing business now is very unbearable as a result. Now, cost of clearance of goods is exorbitantly high, and it has made so many people not even wanting to import again, as the activities at the port will tell you. We have to contend with high interest rate as well, and we are again being consumed by high rate of inflation. We are not competitive in the sub-region. The trading that we do not do it in isolation. We do it in competition with our neighboring countries, the cross-border trading, and we have lost it out. Our turnover has been negatively affected due to the low purchasing power of the consuming public. And if you should also know, utility bills are very high. The structure of the VAT is not conducive for businesses. Until recently, we were charging a flat rate of 3% across the board.
Right.
Now, we have migrated to the 15% and then straight levy of 6%. That cumulates to about 21.9%.
There are concerns that it would go up. VAT might go up.
Go up. Then businesses will collapse eventually. And then we will all fold up our hands. Who is going to increase it? And who is going to allow that? It's not prudent for anybody to go up in taxes again. The government itself recognized the fact that excessive taxation impedes productivity. And why should they even risk going up again? Because we said that tax to GDP in the sub-region, ours is the lowest. Why is this so? Because ours does not ensure compliance, because the taxes are so high and complex in nature. We did fast funding with the mission on the West African coast with Ghana Defense Authority, and the whole West African countries, we were the country that cost of doing business was so high, taxes were so high, shipping line charges were so high, everything. And so compliance is also virtually nil. That's the reason why we are not able, even though the tax, because the tax base itself is very small. The tax base is small, and you keep on piling to otherwise the few recognizable companies that otherwise could even expand and produce. Then we put all the taxes to curtail their growth. It's not helping. The country itself, the first to industrialize. You understand?
Right.
And so what we are saying is that cost of doing business should be brought down. Cost of clearance, if the cost items at the port, numbers about 10 to 20. Where Vice President was bringing the peopleized system, they were able to pull down the cost of doing business at the port to about 12. Now it has gone up again. Nuisance taxes keep on creeping. Government, when it came, they said that there were nuisance taxes and that they removed most of them. Now, nuisance taxes are creeping.
What are the latest nuisance taxes?
Oh, COVID-19 levies. Nuisance. There's no precedent in the world. That's the pandemic that has come to cripple businesses. We put a levy on the pandemic. It's uncalled for. It's nuisance. And then it has to be taken off. And then the 2% import levy, special import levy,
right.
that was introduced by the previous government that after the sunset they will remove.
Right.
It has become a tax in perpetuity. So they are taking the business community for granted. Now when you say that something is temporary, it should be temporary. Because otherwise when we won't take the government is serious. You understand? And so these are the areas that we are taking, and they don't have any option than to reduce the cost of doing business, tone down the taxes, and then expand the tax net. And also, let me remind you that for the past couple of years, 5 years on, we have been exceeding our revenue target. If we are exceeding our revenue target, and so the revenue is not sufficient for us, then we have to look at expenditure. It means that we are overspending it, or we are overpricing it, or we are not ensuring value for money for our expenditure. And that's how we should go about it.
Dr. Bing, you sit in a room with the finance minister, ahead of the budget. You have conferences. Do you tell him these things, and what has been his reaction to these things when you tell him?
You know me, I'm blunt. I don't know whether it's correct to be blunt or not. But exactly how I talk on air is exactly what I tell them when we meet. And then if you look at the face, you see that they are responding positively, meaning that they understand your plight, their frustration with which you are talking and all that. I think they also have their own set of problems. So when it comes to implementation, then of course, most of your concerns are left out. And so that's what we have to contend with. My brother, thank you. I'm entering UPS for a panel discussion.
Please deliver excellently. We wish you all the best, Dr. Joseph Obeng. He is president of GUTA. And next we'll have Asaki Samson Awengobit. He is the executive secretary of the Importers and Exporters Association of Ghana. In studio with me is still Mr. Julius Jima. He is a tax policy analyst. We'll engage him. Asaki, good morning. Thank you for your time.
Good morning, Chief. How are you?
I am fine. There have been talks about industrialization and cutting down on imports, and that is what will strengthen our city and grow our economy. What do you say to that proposal?
Well, I was trying to direct my brother to take a right hand. Can you come back with your question?
I am saying that there have been concerns or calls for Ghana to industrialize in order to bring down inflation and also to strengthen our economy and our currency, and that's the way to go to create a lot more jobs and not to be always changing our cedi into dollars to go and bring in goods. What do you say to that as Executive Secretary of Importers and Exporters Association of Ghana?
Thank you very much. Good morning, and good morning to your jealous listeners. And let me say a big good morning to my senior comrades on Facebook and your line. I don't know who I'm asking for. I think it's John Hughes, right?
This is me, sir.
Okay, good, John. Point is, it's an absolute and a policy that all Ghanaians are in, and I'm sure your good side also, I think, advocating that there's a need. And then it was one of the biggest points this government said in 2016 that they were going to move us from taxation to production. And it was one of the bullet points that all of us, you and I, we all agreed that this was a hope they were going to pay. Unfortunately, 7 years down the lane, I'm not quite sure which company that or which manufacturing that they have brought to this country. And that is going to turn the corner, like the finance minister said in his media budget review, turn the corner. No, there is nothing like that. If you take the vehicle company that we brought, that the government is talking about, they manufacture the car engine, they manufacture the car doors, the mirrors, the car batteries, everything in Europe. Just put them into a container, get them on port, and they give you a tax waiver. Get it on port, take the container to the assembly place, and they just take the crane and lift the engine and fix, take the tire and fix, take the mirror and fix, and say you are manufacturing cars in Ghana. Is that it? manufacturing components. How many components are they manufacturing? How many companies are producing components of cars that you can then pick and then assemble together, and that becomes a vehicle? And then we can say that we can knock our chest and say we are producing in Ghana. That is a scam. To scam us. I can tell you, the government has not done any enabling environment to make production friendly. I mean, I'm sure you probably either before me or you have done that before. Maybe I'm sure you've spoken to AGI. Have you spoken to AGI?
No, not yet. But not today. We've spoken to them before on this matter.
But indeed, you will have heard that the AGI will come and tell you that the reason why they cannot produce up to optimum is as a result of cost of utility system. And so if a government is deliberately thinking, as all of us is wanting it to be, that government should at least give us that enable environment for us to do production, so that instead of people coming, bring hard currency to buy products from us and export, and we will also get the hard currency here, then we taking our city to change the hard currency and go somewhere to buy their goods again. Is government supposed to give proper utility tariffs, special utility tariffs industry? That's not done. Special water bills industry. That's not done. You go to Tema, where the companies, the major manufacturers are or is, they will tell you, or even if within Accra here, the light industrial area, you will see completely clear that manufacturers are complaining of this tariff. The tariff, water tariff is killing them. The interest rate, you go to companies, you go to a place where you see many industries are borrowing at 0%. You go to China, 0%. Interest rate.
Let me get you, Asaki. Are you saying that if all these things you're mentioning are brought down the way you want them, you will stop importing into Ghana, and that you would rather support industrialization and local production? Is that what I get from you?
Do you think the importers are enjoying flying hours? When you go to turbulent times, they still go Turkey, China, and others to bring good. You think they enjoy it? If it was Germany and Australia and other areas, if we've given proper tariff, if we give proper interest rate of bank, interest rate for production, ADP or NIB was established for industry. Is that okay? ADB was established for agricultural sector, isn't it? Are they all doing that? They're not running cases. You have to open account with them. They are not doing universal banking. They have targeted publicity. I remember even one of the budget. Was it the 2023 budget that the government said they were going to set up a new bank? I was laughing.
Right. 2021 budget. It was ready in 2020 for 2021. Yes.
So where's the bank? But people are withdrawing salaries because they are now they put out a consortium saying that they have to set up the bank. We come to deceive us. So we are not, we do the talking, but we are not doing the working. So I'm saying, I'm agreeing with you in principle that yes, if governments were able to do ABC as I'm putting to play, you will see industries coming, you will see people bringing machinery to set up factories, produce. We have outside experience in Ghana here. Africa Continental Free Trade Area, is not in Ghana.
It is.
First time we are hosting international office like that, isn't it? How many Ghanaians are taking advantage of it? We can't. We cannot compute. Because, why? Because the cost of doing business here will give prices out. Look, countries like Benin, like even Nigeria and South Africa and others will benefit after, and we Ghanaians will sit here complaining because our banks will never borrow to us at 10% per annum.
I see.
That's below 6% per annum. So, real production here will be good for us. We can, and we will do the distribution. Our people do the distribution. They'll buy and sell. I remember the last time the Minister of Agriculture called us. What was it? That they were having LI 2023 budget. It's going to come in this budget. That they were coming to make sure they cut down 60% importation of certain excessive goods. Goods that they think that we have the capacity to produce here. And i.e., what were those goods? The three main items was cooking oil, that's the vegetable oil,
rice, and chicken, yes.
Tomato paste. These were the cardinal points product that we made mention. That they were. As we speak, tell me, we were told, some lion wanted to inject about $7 million. It's rice to happen. After if they put one rice on the ground, where is the rice? remember, one of the reasons why the government abolished French values outright was that our manufacturers, through AGI, advocated that because the importers were enjoying that, it was killing the industry. And so for that matter, government should do what? To totally abolish 50% values from the business community.
I'm sure tomorrow we can have an extended conversation on this one, but thus far you have made your point. I thank you very much.
But Johnny, I could tell you that tomorrow we do not want to see any additional layer of taxes on the business community.
Hey.
I said it elsewhere, and I said that if you care, this Christmas is going to be Wahala, my brother.
If that happens, what would you do?
Come again.
If there's another layer of taxes, what would you do?
Well, the point you have first is that, as you can see, every day, I'm sure, Johnny, you are married. Madam goes to market every day and comes to tell you, look, your job money is nothing, you cannot reach a month. Why? Because just the last week when you went to market, this week when she went back, the same commodity, the same quantity that she bought last week has changed, price has changed. That's how it's going to be. Prices will continue to be rising. Because I can tell you, 25 kilo of rice, I don't know the last time you bought rice, is no less than 400 or 500.
Okay, thank you. Asaki Samson Awengobet is the Executive Secretary of the Importers and Exporters Association of Ghana. Julius, you have the final word on this one. So you've heard from all the key stakeholders. Close it for us.
All right, thank you so much, Johnny. Listening to our various key stakeholders, it's an interesting conversation, and I could see the sentiment in the way they are trying to protect their respective industries. That is okay, but in closing, the simple issue is that there's tax fatigue in the system.
Correct.
As a result of exigencies that has happened locally and then on the international stage. With that, we are just anticipating that we are not expecting no new taxes tomorrow. What the finance minister should seek to present to Ghanaians is just focusing on fiscal discipline, focusing on reducing expenses. In fact, I'm looking forward that tomorrow the total expenditure the minister will present will be a little lower than what we saw in 2023, because you're under IMF. So no need to rush up anything, but no new taxes, reduce your expenditure and stay true to the course with which you have started this IMF deal, and then we are hoping for the second payment. Then we move into 2024 beautifully without any distortions in our tax system. The compliance there, we've already elaborated on that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Julius. I'm grateful that you could join us here. Is a tax policy analyst. Also joining us earlier was Dr. Alex Ampabine. There was also Professor Lord Mensah, Samson Sakia Wingobit, and Dr. Obeng of Guta. William, 30 seconds. What do you share?
Well, all the talk is about money. And for me, money is not necessarily mathematics and figures. It's about behavior. And this government has behaved badly in the past, the way they've handled our finances. So if we are going to do anything positive out of this budget, they should check their behavior going forward.
Behavior.
Yes.
Speaking of which, there's somebody who is behaving. She's an entrepreneur. She's joining Helen. Helen, who are we hosting? Entrepreneur.
We're going to be talking about the influence or the business of influencing. What does that mean? We're looking at non-traditional jobs that are infiltrating the work space. So Finba is here to tell us how to turn influencing into a business.
But I can tell you, as my colleague, Deputy Minister